thank you, everybody. I am Maui. I'm your host of The Dope. Today, we're going to review One Night in Miami, which is a 2020 drama about a fictionalized meeting of Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, and Sam Cooke in 1964, celebrating Ali's win over Sonny Liston. It is directed by Regina King, her first feature direction from a screenplay by Kemp Powers, based on his stage play of the same name. Kemp Powers, you might have heard recently, he co-wrote and I think co-directed Pixar's most recent film, Soul, starring Jamie Foxx. You can check our channel for that review as well. So we're gonna get into it. It stars Kingsley Ben-Adir, Eli Goree, Aldous Hodge, and Leslie Odom Jr. in the lead roles. And to review this with me today is my good friend Alana. Alana, how you doing?
Good, hello. Happy to be here and happy to talk about this great movie.
Yeah, that was pretty dope. I love to just get your impressions of it off the bat.
It really, well, first starting out, it definitely made me want to watch some like old Ali fights, not gonna lie, because just watching how he dances and floats around and just like his cockiness, but like he's good, so he kind of deserves to be a little cocky to do like at 22 years old, heavyweight
Hmm.
champion of the world at 22. Like I didn't do anything that cool when I was 22. So that definitely impressed me. And then just to have this meeting of like four very different black men in that period, like 1964, there's a lot of stuff that popped off 1964. So just to see these four different men come together and kind of talk about the issues and stuff, it's something you don't really see. Like you hear about Malcolm X, you hear about these people separately, but you don't really hear about them together. And even though this is a fictionalized conversation, there was a meeting of these four people. We don't know
We
exactly
don't know
what they
what happened, right?
exactly, but it's cool to speculate, what would happen. Because I'm trying to think of now what four people could we get in Black culture today to just meet and talk. Like I don't feel like we have anyone like them.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people online compare it to like the Avengers, and I kind of like that comparison. Like this team up of like black excellence. It's pretty dope.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I really dug it. I have to say, in terms of the direction, f- it's a stage play that's almost entirely set in a two-room apartment or a hotel room. It takes a lot to make that interesting, and I think that Regina King did a really good job. The cinematographer did a really good job of using the camera to kind of pace and flow. Um, the the performers, the four leads, were dynamite. I was
Oh yeah.
really impressed, especially with Eli Goree, I believe is his name, who played Cassius Clay, aka Muhammad Ali. uh, was just so good. Like he had that Ali mentality,
Oh
that
yeah.
Ali swagger down so well, and I really enjoyed that. But for me, the standout performer, I'm not familiar with him. Kingsley Ben-Adir. I know he's done some stuff. He's the guy who played Malcolm X. I could not
Mhm.
keep my eyes off of him. I loved the way he played Malcolm X. Was so good. I could watch that dude act all day. It looks like he was on the OA on Netflix, and
He was in High Fidelity too. That's where I recognized him from because
the TV adaptation.
yeah, he
Oh, I
played
haven't
the
seen that yet.
the boyfriend or the love interest or one of the love interests of Zoe Kravitz or whatever. Because I'm like, isn't that old boy from High Fidelity? Oh, that is. Or like to see him be there where he's just kind of like a lover and like for her to kind of win versus seeing him as Malcolm X. I was like, oh, so he got chops. Like he can actually act in a dramatic role and as Malcolm. Very,
Okay.
very impressive.
Yeah, he was hella good. He was hella good. Um, and then the two bigger celebrities in this, Aldous Hodge and Leslie Odom Jr. as Jim Brown and Sam Cooke, respectively, were also fantastic. Though I
Oh,
will say the prosthetic nose on Leslie was just weirding my brain out. It was a well done prosthetic, but it just like made him look different, and it was just like fucking with my brain.
who's that? Yeah.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. I liked how messy it was.
Yes.
Um, it wasn't just like we're black, we're excellent. Like they had different opinions on what fighting back looked like.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was really interesting. And then also, um, Malcolm is in this low point where he's, on the outs with the Nation of Islam for kind of getting too big, and Elijah starts pushing him out. I thought that was interesting. Also, how like uh, even Ali, who was like looking to become a Muslim, as he would say,
Yeah.
um, wasn't he didn't really feel like he wanted to live by all of the rules and regulations, but he did appreciate the community, and so I thought that was interesting because you saw him like, okay, let me take a sip of this drink that Sam brought in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved that.
Because
I'd say
that's
my
a
my
big
oh,
jump.
go ahead.
Oh,
Hmm?
sorry. I was gonna say that is a big jump to make, like from living a certain type of way to, it sounds all fun and games. I feel like when you see Malcolm on stage talking to want to be in the nation, but then to know the discipline that takes, like, some discipline, boxing and everything, but more discipline. You can't drink. They joked a lot of times about like, oh, I miss my grandmama's pork. Like, I don't want to not give that up, but there is a lot more to it than meets the eye, and it's like that realization of like, oh snap, like this is a big commitment.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very big commitment, and I thought it was really cool how they kind of brought that together, and portrayed that in the movie. They didn't need to spend a lot of time on it to like show that, so I thought that was cool. Um, I also really appreciated the moments where we see them split off, because like the most polarized figures in this are Malcolm X, who's this more rigid guy, and then Sam Cooke, who's this freewheeling like rock and roll dude,
Hmm.
And so to see like the juxtaposition between the two of them, the moments where they're kind of like butting heads, and then even when they're split apart, and then you get a one-on-one scene with Malcolm X and Jim Brown, and you get that one-on-one scene with Ali and Sam,
Oh
and
yeah.
you see how much they do actually admire each other and love each other, but they're also trying to push each other. I think Sam is pushing Malcolm to just like, dude, like enjoy your life. Like don't get so consumed by the struggle that you forget to live. And
Yes.
Malcolm is saying like, you have the most powerful voice of all of us, and you're not using it. And I just want to see you use it because I think so highly of you. And we get this flashback to where he met Sam. Well, he saw Sam performing before he actually like became friends with Sam in Boston, and Jackie Wilson is being a little bitch and cuts his sound out because
Yeah.
Jackie opened for Sam and then like sabotaged him for some reason.
Because he's like, I want to be the only singer here tonight, and it's like you're
Yeah,
lucky you got to open for Sam Cooke. Like,
yeah, and then all the musicians leave because the crowd's getting rowdy. The crowd's throwing shit at the stage, and then Sam does this thing where he just like he's like, okay, y'all know Chain Gang, all right, let's do Chain Gang to the crowd, and just
yes,
starts stomping and clapping and getting them to do it with him, and it becomes almost just like primal. He taps into something in that audience, and they just like all have this moment, like it feels like all of a sudden he like just tapped into like this pool of energy of our ancestors.
yes, that was such a beautiful. Because I mean, like, of course they're mad. Like, I'm looking at it from like the audience point of view. Like, they're pissed. They're hardworking people. They like probably saved up, got time off work, whatever, to come to this concert. So they want to see a show. But to have something where, yeah, he's able to kind of like, it starts off slow. They're tapping and they're going to the music, and you know singing the song with him. All of them are participating. It is that primal instinct that like, let's sing this together, and he's able to sing, like everyone's participating. It's like they were all in that together. It was
Hmm.
a beautiful thing and a
Yeah.
beautiful way to control the like crowd. Like you went, they 0 to 100, but like in the opposite sense, like they were ready to like destroy stuff, and then for him to be able to get them, pacify them with his voice and with his music and
Hmm.
music
And
that they made.
and how like Malcolm saw in that moment what Sam was capable of, right? How Sam could control a crowd and inspire the masses, and saying like that's what you could be doing for the struggle, right? You
Yep.
could use your voice in that way, and this entire film like leads up to and this incredible first time where he performs the song. He's like, "That's the song I've been working on." It's obviously like it's a few days after this one night in Miami, uh, and we kind of see everybody afterwards. We see Malcolm's house get bombed.
Oh yeah.
We see Jim Brown quit the NFL to pursue his career in acting, which we all know becomes very successful. Um, we see Muhammad Ali take on the name Muhammad
Oh
Ali.
yeah.
Um, but then we see Sam. He's on the Johnny Carson show, and he finishes singing a fun little poppy song, and then Johnny's like, "Oh, we'd love to hear one more song." And he says, "Oh, I got this one song. No one's heard it yet. It's just something I've been working on." And then he sings, "A change is gonna come," and that's like the moment where I completely lost it because that
That's
is one of the most beautiful songs like of all time. It's one of my favorite songs of all time, and to get it with like this context of this painful night he had where he was faced with his shortcomings in the struggle,
yeah.
faced with like that Bob Dylan song, right?
Yep.
That was a great moment too, where he's like, this brother who has nothing to gain from writing this song, and he's written something that speaks more to the struggles of our people than you have ever done.
Exactly. And then to have Sam even admit that when he first heard the song, that like anger of like, damn, I should have written that. Like,
Hmm.
that's a good, because that is a great song. And I can understand, when I was in high school, I was a big, I'm not like the other kids. I'm gonna listen to Bob Dylan and be all cool with my big headphones and my Walkman. uh, but just to have that, because yeah, if you think about it, and especially at that time period, like, why does Bob Dylan get to sing like "What Makes a Man a Man"? Like, what do you know about being that? You're white and from Minnesota, whereas you have these black men facing real struggle. So for him to write something so powerful that touched people, shoot, Malcolm X that thinks all white people are devils, he's still sitting there like, that's a good song. Like, so that was, you could see that for Sam himself, that's something where it's like, no, I need to do something. I need to write that. Though he was doing stuff, and I do like that the movie does touch on the stuff that Sam did do.
Yeah, yeah. They
Even
talk
if he
about how
wanted to.
he owned his own masters. He started his own record label. He's employing black musicians. He talked about got these Womack brothers and the youngest one Bobby. He
And
wrote
I'm
this song.
Bobby.
So I love Bobby Womack. I love
Yes.
Bobby Womack. My dad used to play a lot of Bobby Womack when I was a kid, and I love Bobby Womack because Bobby Womack always has to like do a few minutes of just like talking before his songs, and then like, but he'll just like go right into the singing. Like you never know when it's gonna happen. He'd be like, it's funny how people always be saying in the sha la la. La." He's just so goofy. He has such a swagger. But he's talking about that the song that he sold to the Rolling Stones, and so Bobby didn't want the Rolling Stones to have the song.
Hmm.
Yeah, Bobby was 98 on the top 100, on the charts, and then Rolling Stones cover it, and then they get to number two, and not on the rock charts, on the pop charts.
Hmm.
And because I own it, because we own the masters and everything, when and Bobby was angry for 6 months
Yeah.
till
That's
he got
six
that
months
first
later.
royalty check, and he's like, "Oh, I wonder what else we can get written for them." Talking about how like he is building generational wealth, which should be an
Yes.
important part of that conversation as well. That was really cool to see. And each of them
Definitely.
were kind of in a different place and where they were and how they fight and how they how they kind of do these things. And I loved seeing that, and I loved seeing how Malcolm almost kind of felt inadequate next to the rest of them. He's just like, the three of you are amazing, and you do all these amazing things, and I just want to support that, because I just really believe in y'all. And like it almost felt like he felt small next to them, when which is weird to think of, because when we think of Malcolm X, he's just like, you know,
Exactly.
he's one of the, one of our Black Kings. We talk about him in the same breath as we do with Dr. King, who we're
Hmm.
celebrating today. Um, yeah, it was really cool to see all the imperfections of them, and all the things that they were scared of and whatnot. They weren't, they didn't make them caricatures or martyrs or like heroes. They portrayed them as people, which I think is necessary in order to tell that story effectively. It's stronger if they are not perfect. It's stronger if we see them as they
Yes.
are, as whole, flawed human beings. They're just trying to do the best that they can.
Yes. I think that's one of the so small tangent, but this kind of reminds me of a conversation that Billy Brooks and I have had talking about I don't know if you've seen the previews for Black Jesus or Jesus in Black Messiah, which I'm excited for,
Hmm.
but I get worried because I'm worried about I do like who they cast as Fred. I can't
Hmm.
date not I forget his I can't pronounce his last name, but he was in Get
Daniel
Out
Kalua,
and
right?
yes, great actor, but I get worried in that portrayal of Fred and how they're going to do it, because if they make him seem too perfect and too amazing, I feel like it separates that idea from to regular people. And that's why I like seeing these people with their flaws and their imperfections being um able to be themselves, and you get to see like, yeah, they did great things, but at the end of the day, they're people. A lot of times when we fully idealize or make a lot of these past heroes seem too perfect, I feel like it's like the world will never have another Malcolm, it'll never have another Jim Brown, it'll never have another Sam Cooke, but they're all people at the end of the day too, and it's just like they have the
Hmm.
same flaws, some of the same issues that we have. So seeing them
When's that
as
movie coming out?
I have no, I feel like it's coming out this year, but
It's
I'm
coming out soon,
not
right? Because they have like full ass
entirely
trailers. Got to
sure.
be, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get Billy on to talk with us about that and
Yeah,
share
because I know
some of
he's
the
got some,
stories.
he's definitely got some strong opinions about it, but it's that same kind of, if you're gonna tell a story about Fred, you want it to be told right, and
Hmm.
not overly glorified. Because I feel like he, at the end of the day, was a person, and Fred was one of those people like, we can all do this, but how he gets told is like, there was only one Fred, only Fred could do this, that kind of mentality. So I feel like
Yeah.
it's good to have people see the actual, maybe not imperfections saying these people weren't perfect, but yeah, to see that they were actual people, to see that they did think about these things, and there's a lot of weight on them to be great. It's not like they were just great. They had to go through a lot of stuff. It's not like Malcolm was just great. He had to say a lot of stuff. He went through a lot of stuff. Same thing with Jim Brown and Cassius Clay and all of them.
So Judas and the Black Messiah, right?
Judas, there we go, on the Black Messiah.
Right. So it's coming out February 12th. So it's just next month. So yeah, maybe let's see if we can get him, and we can, maybe we'll do it on our other show on Conscious Culture. We can still do like our like review, but
Hmm.
let's do like an episode in February on Conscious Culture about the Black Panthers. We could talk about the movie a bit, and then maybe talk with Billy about with Billy about his experience as a Black Panther, and what he stood for. We could talk about what the film gets right, what it gets wrong. I think that would be a great conversation to have.
True. Yeah, very good to
Yeah.
have. Because I mean, it's about time that something got written about Fred. To be honest, I feel like
Hmm.
not a lot of people. He's just now getting more and more recognition from people, and it's still really not enough. I mean,
Hmm.
he really, at least in my opinion, needs to be up there with Malcolm and Martin because of
Oh,
the things that he's
absolutely.
done.
We just
Um,
talked about him in my stream earlier for MLK Day. We were just talking about Fred, and yeah, it's a shame that I think for some of us, we put his name in that same conversation as Malcolm X, and this Rushmore of civil rights activists. You know, for some people that Rushmore is two people, it's Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. For some of us, it's also Fred and Stokely and Ella. You know,
Yes.
it's,
There's so many people.
Shirley. There's so many people in that Rushmore, right? There's a lot more than 2 or 4 people. It's like
Yes.
100, people. You can name so many great, amazing people that did incredible, amazing things. And then that was, and that's the thing. They're all just people. They're not like there's nothing necessarily special about them except that they had the courage to do what needed to be done. And
Yes.
that's what I loved about this movie is that it portrayed them as people that did what they knew had to be done.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
what they could do, but also what that meant, what living with that meant, like seeing Malcolm the way he was and oh, he's just pissing off white people, blah, 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 is saying, saying what he says, but the pressure that put on him, like he did have that break with the Nation of Islam. He had to worry about that. So he didn't have that protection, or he was losing that protection of the Nation of Islam.
hmm,
So yeah, he seems so confident and so righteous when you hear him, but to know what he was living through and being watched and oh, you're just being paranoid, but he had a reason to be paranoid, like not only for the FBI, but later from his, you know, his people, basically. And then you
yeah,
see with Sam, like here he is, the singer that tries to touch the hearts of people. He can't even perform for white people without them leaving because, they want to hear somebody white sing a song or they don't like his music. And Jim Brown feeling like he's this hero in sports, but that weird, I don't know if you saw Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
So that's next on my list. I was going to ask you after we're done with this if you wanted to review that one too, because I got to watch that ASAP because I want to get a review up for that one as well.
Okay, definitely good. And without spoiling it,
I
they
know the
make a
story.
similar.
I've read the play. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. But it's that similar kind of thing of weird ownership if you're a celebrity or black celebrity, especially at that time, of just feeling like in Jim Brown even talks about it with him and Sam that being around white people that want to pat on the back because they're not racist, because they didn't do anything, they didn't call you the N-word to your face, they didn't say anything mean to you, so they expect a reward for that. And the weird dichotomy of he is this hero and this football star, but it feels same thing with a little bit with Muhammad Ali, where it feels like they're kind of owned almost, where it's like, well, the investors don't want you doing this. Well, that's my money that I earned for the investors. They wouldn't have money to give me if it wasn't for me winning these fights or playing these games.
Right.
And even though they are black figures in the celebrity, they got that celebrity from still white people. So it's that weird dichotomy of I am a celebrity, I am a star, but that weird feeling of almost like they're supposed to feel indebted to these white people because of that. And I like that they touch on that because I feel like for a lot of people, it's easy to say, well, they're celebrities. What does it matter? They're famous. But especially at that time, these are still things. Even now, you still have to worry about that. But back then, you still have to worry about that.
Yeah, they do a good job of setting that up where that scene where he says that has resonance because we get those scenes in the opening with him and Muhammad. Uh, Muhammad Ali, where they're saying like, "Oh, we don't want you hanging out with that Malcolm X guy," and
Yeah.
then with Jim, he goes to that dude's house where he grew up in the town where he grew up, that island in Georgia,
Yeah.
Saint Simon's Island, and they have this lovely talk, and he's just like, "Oh, I always got your back no matter what, you know that." And then at the end of the conversation, he's like, "Oh, can I come in for a minute?" He's like, "Oh, we don't allow niggers in the house, you know that." And it's just like, whoa, here's
Yeah.
some just like racism in your face. It's just like, oh, so like that's the I think that really informs why he says that. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, so
It
good.
kind of reminds me, I don't if you've seen, I'm just talking about other movies because this movie does call and similarities to other movies, but if you've
Hmm.
seen the movie Race about Jesse Owens, um,
Yes, I have. Yeah.
great movie, but at the end he wins this race. It's beautiful. He kind of proves to Hitler like F you, like black people are awesome. And he has this dinner at the end and he can't even walk in the hotel in the front. Him and his wife have to go to the back. And it's that
Hmm.
weird again, that status of even though you're more, you do these things, you're famous, you're still at the end of the day black. And that's
Mm-hmm.
speaking of Muhammad Ali. Yesterday I had shared one of his famous quotes of just like, you want me to go to Vietnam? Well, Vietnamese never called me a nigger. Like, I've
Mm-hmm.
never had, you want to send me off to a war to kill other brown people that are poor just like me for a country that doesn't like me, that hates me, that's killed my father, raped my mother, that's done all of these injustices, but you want to send me to go kill somebody else like me. That, again, that we, especially with like veterans, and like, don't get me started with talking about, I feel like furious, like black man ain't got no place in the military, but looking at how, you had all these people fight for this country and then come back home and get spit on and treated like they were nothing despite sacrificing so much. And yeah, that it's really, so I think it's bizarre how people don't realize it. You could be on top of the world, but if you are in America, you're black. So you're
Yeah.
still that second class citizen. It doesn't matter what you do. You could discover the cure for cancer. If you're black, still got to go, whites only. You need to go in the back to get this.
Mm-hmm. So, to wrap up, I'd love to know, um, so our rating system is out of five, and so I'd like to know out of five, what do you rate this movie? You can do like point something too if you want. You can be like, oh, I'll give it a 3.2 or a 4.8. You can.
For me right now, I mean, it's still very fresh. I would like to watch it again just to like get that like initial like awe feeling, like so I can like really analyze it. But I'm actually probably gonna give it like a 5, just because I feel like it touched on so many different issues. Like even the conversation between Brown and Malcolm about like colorism, and just like I feel like you light skins are always like, are you trying to prove it to white people? Or are you trying to prove it to black people? In that conversation, I was like, whoa, like there's so many things that that movie touches on with celebrity status, what kind of celebrity you are, your place in the system, whiteness, looking at so many different things that matter, and having history. I mean, yeah, the history wasn't 100% accurate, but it doesn't claim to be 100% historical.
Mm-hmm.
So I would give it that 5, just because I feel like there's something that you'll know and there's something that you might not know. And I feel like it kind of encourages you to want to learn more about the things that you may not be that clear. Because even Jim Brown, I didn't really know a lot about Jim Brown like before watching this.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm like, I want to go look up more about him and see more of the movies he's been in, like, that kind of celebrity. I think, yeah, I'd give it a 5 for that reason.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I think it's a really good movie. I think people will see this movie and they might be underwhelmed by like the lack of set pieces and things like that. It's like a bottle episode, right? Because like pretty much the entire film, like once they get past the fight, the rest of the film is almost exclusively in a very very small hotel room. Is Sam Cooke comments on it when
Oh
he's the
yeah.
first to arrive. This place is a piece of shit. But I think that that's very intentional. You know, I, I'm of the opinion. I did this with Blues for Mr. Charlie when I directed that play. I didn't have a lot of like fancy set pieces. I had I had a nice set for them to kind of live in that was like very kind of skeletal and not much to it, so that it can become whatever the actors needed to be. And I feel like that's what they did in this movie, and I think they did that very effectively. I think Regina King, coming from an actor's background, just gave them just a simple set for them to fill with life, and boy did they ever.
Oh yeah.
Direction doesn't just mean big bright and colorful explosions and things like that. Sometimes excellent direction means knowing when to just be quiet and when to be still. And I think that her experience as an actor informed some very very astute directing choices, and I'm very excited to see what comes next from her.
Oh
So with all that being said, and I will say that the first maybe 20 minutes of the movie, like, you're drags a little bit because you're waiting for them to get together,
yeah.
a little bit, not much, so I will say I will give One Night in Miami a 4.8 out of 5. um, yeah, so we both thought this was a really good movie. I suggest everybody go out and check this movie out right away. It is for free on Amazon Prime right now. You will not be disappointed. It is a great film, and the culmination of it, that song at the end, the way it caps it, is absolutely wonderful. It's basically like the origin story of one of the most important songs ever written. That's what I feel like it all kind of boils down to. Um, One of the most important songs, as well as one of the most important books, right? Because we also see that,
Oh,
after
yeah, the
this,
biography.
the autobiography of Malcolm X, as told by Alex Haley. Oh, absolutely brilliant. So
Oh, good.
please check it out and be sure to like and subscribe to our page for all the fun stuff. The Dope just started back up. 2021 Dope is a little bit different. We're doing everything YouTube now, so YouTube is the place to be. We will still be releasing eventually stuff on our podcasting platforms, but if you want to get it right away, the best place to go to is YouTube. Like and subscribe, hit that bell. We have a lot of fun stuff coming up. Conscious Culture just started back up today. You'll see on our YouTube channel, we just did a King's Day live stream with Sharonda and Brian Dawson of Brondy House. They will be having a show on our network as well. Every week they'll be talking about figures in Black history, and not just the a couple hundred years of Black American history, but the entire tapestry of our diaspora and our African roots and culture. You'll learn about ancient Mali. You'll learn about Marcus Garvey. You learn about all sorts of stuff. It's amazing. They are so knowledgeable. You learn about Ghana. You learn about just check it out. Trust me. Um, Also on our pop culture side, be sure to check out Dope Debate Club is going to be starting soon, where we will take topics and then we'll do them debate team style, argue them out to figure out what's the best Marvel movie, the best Bridgerton sex scene. It's the one in the library on the ladder, y'all. Just that's my vote. All sorts of fun stuff, right? So we're not just here to just talk about like sadness. We're also here to celebrate joy and the full tapestry of Black people, Indigenous people, people of color, LGBTQ community. That's what this channel is all about. If you are into that, please like and subscribe and check us out. Thank you very much.